The evening was settling in, and the street market buzzed with life. Colorful stalls lined both sides of the road, clothes, shoes, jewelry, and food, while the voices of vendors and customers blended into a noisy symphony. Among the crowd, one small clothing stall stood out, run by a young girl named Aisha. She was barely 20, yet her weary eyes spoke of burdens far heavier than her age. Selling clothes was not just a job, it was survival. Every sale meant food on the table for her struggling family. As Aisha carefully arranged a stack of dresses, a sudden gust of wind swept through the market, sending bright scarves tumbling to the ground. In her rush to gather them, she bumped into a rack. The rack wobbled, and before she could stop it, a pile of clothes came crashing down. At that very moment, a tall, sharply dressed man was passing by. His presence commanded attention. Broad shoulders, chiseled features, and a tailored suit that screamed wealth. This was Ryan Malik, a cold, untouchable CEO known for his ruthless business mind and icy demeanor. He was speaking on the phone, issuing precise instructions to his driver, when the avalanche of clothes fell directly onto him. Startled, Aisha hurried to clear the mess, her hands fumbling. In her haste, she lost balance and stumbled forward. And then it happened. For the briefest second, their lips brushed. An accidental, unintentional kiss, so fleeting, yet powerful enough to freeze time itself. Ryan's eyes widened. He immediately stepped back, his jaw tightening. "How dare you?" he snapped, his voice sharp, commanding. Aisha's heart pounded in her chest. Her face burned with shame as she stammered, I didn't mean to. It was an accident, I swear." The market had noticed. Whispers rose, laughter spread. Some passers-by smirked, others muttered jokes under their breath. Aisha wanted to disappear into the ground. She dropped to her knees, quickly collecting the fallen clothes, murmuring apologies again and again. But Ryan was unsettled. His anger was real, but so was something else, something he couldn't explain. The softness of her lips, the innocence in her eyes, why did it echo inside him? His driver rushed over. "Sir, are you all right?" Ryan gave a curt nod, brushing off the last bit of fabric clinging to his suit. Without another word, he strode away, his footsteps firm, but his heart strangely unsteady. For the first time in years, he couldn't get a moment out of his head. Behind him, Aisha sat frozen. Her trembling fingers touched her lips as her mind replayed the accident again and again. "What have I done?" she thought, mortified. Neither of them knew it yet. But that brief collision, that accidental kiss, had just tied their fates together. A single moment, born of chaos, was about to change both their lives forever. Ryan sat in the back seat of his sleek black car, city lights flashing past the tinted windows. His driver kept glancing at him through the mirror, but Ryan's face was unreadable, stone cold as always. Yet inside he was far from calm. That moment at the market, the clumsy fall, the pile of clothes, and that accidental brush of lips kept replaying in his mind. He clenched his jaw, annoyed with himself. Why can't I stop thinking about it? Ryan Malik was not a man easily distracted. His life was a carefully built empire. Meetings, numbers, profits, expansion. There was no room for mistakes, no room for feelings. And yet, the memory of that girl's wide, innocent eyes refused to leave him. At his office the next morning, he tried to bury himself in work. Spreadsheets, contracts, proposals, he attacked them with his usual precision. But every time his pen hovered over a paper, he saw her again. The girl with the cheap stole, trembling hands, and a voice that cracked when she apologized. His assistant, Daniel, noticed. "Sir, is everything all right? You seem distracted." Ryan's sharp gaze snapped to him. "Focus on your own work, Daniel." The words were cold. But Ryan's hand tightened around his pen. He was distracted and he hated it. Meanwhile, across the city, Aisha was facing her own storm. The market had not forgotten. Vendors chuckled behind her back, customers whispered, and some men made crude jokes as they passed her stall. She pretended not to hear, her hands busy folding shirts, but her heart burned with humiliation. "It was an accident," she muttered to herself again and again, as if repeating the truth would erase the memory. But nothing erased it, not the whispers, not the laughter, not even the tears she wiped away when no one was looking. Still, she kept selling. Life didn't pause for embarrassment. Her younger brother needed school fees. Her mother needed medicine. Survival didn't wait for dignity. That night, Ryan found himself staring out of his penthouse window, the skyline glowing with countless lights. He should have been thinking about tomorrow's investor meeting, but instead, he saw the street market in his mind, the crowded stalls, the scent of spices in the air, and that girl with fire in her eyes despite her brokenness. He pressed his lips together, unsettled by his own thoughts. He had never been kissed before. Women tried at parties, in boardrooms, in social gatherings, but he always pushed them away. He didn't believe in cheap affection. He had saved his first kiss for something real, something he couldn't define. And now, a poor girl at a street stall had stolen it by accident. He should have been furious. He should have dismissed it, forgotten her. But instead, his chest tightened every time he remembered. The next day, while his driver waited to take him to a meeting, Ryan gave an unexpected order. "Take me to the old market." The driver blinked. "The market, sir? The one downtown?" The afternoon sun burned hot above the crowded bazaar. Merchants shouted, children darted between stalls, and the air was heavy with the smell of spices and dust. Aisha stood behind her stall, adjusting neatly folded piles of clothes. She forced a smile at customers, but inside, her heart still carried the sting of yesterday's whispers. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw him. The same tall figure in a crisp suit, polished shoes cutting through the dirt paths, like they didn't belong there. His presence made the market shift. Some vendors fell silent, others stared in disbelief. What was a man like Ryan Malik, one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, doing in a place like this? Aisha froze. Her first instinct was to hide behind the rack of clothes, but it was too late. Ryan was already walking toward her stall, his sharp eyes fixed on her. "You again?" she whispered under her breath, panic rising. She was sure he had come to demand something, an apology, money for his ruined clothes, maybe even a threat to close her stall. Ryan stopped in front of her table. For a moment he said nothing, just studied her as though she were some puzzle he couldn't solve. Aisha clutched the edge of the table nervously. "Your clothes," Ryan said finally, his voice calm but deep. "How much are they?" Aisha blinked. That was not what she expected. "What?" "The shirts," he pointed casually. "I'll take 3, and that scarf." Her mouth fell open slightly. A CEO who could afford the finest brands was buying from her? Suspicion flickered in her eyes. "Why, you don't need these. You're mocking me, aren't you?" Ryan's lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't waste time mocking people." With that, he pulled out his sleek wallet and handed her crisp bills, far more than the price of the clothes. Aisha shook her head, pushing the money back toward him. "This is too much. I can't accept charity." Something in her tone made Ryan pause. There was pride in her voice, wounded pride, but also strength. She wasn't begging. She wasn't desperate for his money. She wanted respect. "I'm not giving you charity," Ryan said firmly. "I'm paying for clothes, keep it." Reluctantly, Aisha accepted, though her heart hammered in her chest. Why was this man who belonged in glass towers and luxury cars standing here treating her stall as if it mattered? As Ryan turned to leave, a group of vendors nearby exchanged looks. One of them smirked. "Looks like you've caught yourself a rich one, Aisha." The others laughed. Aisha's cheeks burned. Ryan's eyes flicked to the men, cold and sharp, and in a single glance, their laughter died down. Without another word, he walked away, his bag of street clothes in hand. Aisha exhaled shakily, her fingers trembling as she folded the next shirt. She didn't understand it. Why had he come back? Why was he buying from her stall when he could afford anything? The market was livelier than usual, crowded with shoppers bargaining over scarves, spices, and trinkets. Aisha stood behind her stall, arranging new stock, trying to ignore the stares and whispers that had followed her since the accident with Ryan. Every day she told herself it would pass, that people would forget, but they didn't. This time the whispers grew bolder. 3 men leaned against a nearby wall, eyes fixed on her. Their laughter was low, but the meaning in it was cruel. "Hey, stall girl," one of them called. "Where's your rich boyfriend? Maybe he'll buy us all something too." The others snickered. Aisha's hands froze mid-fold, her throat tightening. She forced herself to stay calm, ignoring them as she focused on arranging shirts. But the men stepped closer. "Don't be shy," another said, reaching for a scarf on her stall. "Or is this only for CEOs?" Her heart pounded. She wanted to shout, but fear caught her tongue. She had faced humiliation before, but this felt different, dangerous. Suddenly, the crowd parted slightly. A shadow fell across her stall. Ryan! He stood there, tall and commanding, his expression dark enough to silence even the noisiest vendors. The three men faltered, their mocking smiles fading. Ryan's gaze was icy as he looked at them. "Is this how you spend your days? Harassing women in public?" One of them tried to laugh it off. "We were just joking, sir." Ryan stepped forward, his presence suffocating. "A joke is only funny when both sides laugh." Did she laugh? His voice cut like steel. Silence. The men shifted uneasily. "Leave," Ryan ordered, his tone final. "Before I make sure none of you ever walk these streets again." The threat was quiet but heavy with power. Everyone knew Ryan Malik had influence far beyond the glass towers of business. The men muttered excuses and slipped away into the crowd. Aisha's breath caught in her chest. She hadn't asked for his help, yet relief flooded through her. For the first time in days, she felt safe. "You didn't have to," she began, her voice trembling. Ryan looked at her, his eyes softening just slightly. "Yes, I did." For a moment, their gazes locked. The noise of the market faded, replaced by an unspoken current between them. Aisha's heart raced, not from fear this time, but from something she didn't want to name. But far away, someone else was watching. Victoria, Ryan's longtime fiancée, stood near her car at the edge of the street, her designer heels clicking against the pavement as she crossed her arms. Her eyes narrowed as she observed the scene. Ryan Malik, the untouchable CEO, standing protectively in front of a poor stall girl. A slow, bitter smile spread across Victoria's face. She was used to Ryan's distance, used to his coldness. But this was different. He wasn't cold. He wasn't distant. He was human, and all because of her. Victoria's grip tightened on her purse. She would not allow a girl from the streets to ruin years of carefully. Victoria's heels clicked against the marble floor of an exclusive. Carefully as she sat by the window, stirring her coffee with unnecessary force. Her reflection in the glass was flawless. Red lips, sharp eyeliner, a dress that whispered wealth. Yet beneath the polished surface burned something ugly, rage. Ryan had always been distant with her, cold even, but he was hers. She was the daughter of a powerful business family, the perfect match for the CEO of Malik Enterprises. Their engagement was not only a union of two hearts, it was a merger of two empires. At least that's what she told herself. But now, a street girl was threatening everything. Victoria tapped her manicured nails against the table. "If Ryan wants to play with fire," she murmured, her eyes glinting, "then I'll make sure the girl burns." 2 days later, the market was unusually busy. Bright banners hung overhead. Stalls overflowed with goods, and people bustled in every direction. Aisha was adjusting dresses when a well-dressed woman approached her stall. It was Victoria. Aisha immediately noticed her elegance, the kind that screamed luxury and power. Her instincts told her this woman didn't belong here. Still, she forced a polite smile. "Would you like to look at something?" Victoria's smile was sharp. "So you're the famous stall girl?" Aisha blinked, confused. "Excuse me." Victoria leaned closer, her perfume rich and overwhelming. "Don't play innocent. I know what you're doing. Throwing yourself at Ryan to catch his attention. Clever, but pathetic." Aisha stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about. He's your world, not mine." But Victoria only laughed, loud enough for nearby vendors to hear. "Really? Then why is he protecting you? Why is he buying from your filthy stall? Everyone knows. Do you think he actually cares for a girl like you?" The words cut deep, each one sharper than the last. Customers turned to stare, whispers rising. Aisha's cheeks burned with shame, but she clenched her fists, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I didn't ask him for anything, and I don't need his pity." Victoria tilted her head mockingly. "Good, because pity is all you'll ever get. Stay in your place, girl. Ryan Malik belongs to me." With that, she flicked her hair and walked away, leaving behind a trail of humiliation. Aisha stood frozen, her eyes stinging. She wanted to shout, to defend herself, but the crowd's whispers drowned her out. Some pitied her, others laughed. All she could do was fight the tears threatening to fall. Later that evening, Ryan found her still at her stall, quieter than usual. He noticed the redness in her eyes, the stiffness in her shoulders. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing," she whispered, shaking her head. She didn't want to admit how much Victoria's words had broken her. But Ryan's eyes narrowed. He could sense the truth. Victoria came here, didn't she? Her silence was enough of an answer. The city's grand hotel glittered with golden chandeliers and marble, floors as the elite gathered for the annual business gala. Powerful men in tailored suits and women in shimmering gowns filled the hall, their voices blending into a low hum of wealth and influence. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and all eyes turned to the entrance when Ryan Malek walked in. Beside him, as always, was Victoria, radiant, confident, her hand resting possessively on his arm. But Ryan's expression was cold, his steps steady, as though his mind was elsewhere. And it was. Across the hall, near the far corner where servers carried trays of wine, Ryan's gaze landed on a girl who did not belong to this world of glitter and gold. Aisha. She stood uncertainly, wearing a simple borrowed dress, clutching the strap of her handbag as though it might anchor her. She had been invited through a vendors association that supplied fabrics to the hotel. She never expected Ryan to be here. Her eyes widened when she saw him, panic flashing across her face. She turned as if to leave, but Ryan's voice stopped her. "Aisha." The hall fell into silence. Everyone turned, shocked that the untouchable CEO had spoken so warmly, so personally in front of hundreds of people. Victoria's grip on his arm tightened. "Ryan, what are you doing?" she hissed under her breath. But Ryan stepped forward, his eyes fixed only on Aisha. The distance between them felt heavy with all the unsaid words, all the walls of class, wealth, and pride. Yet he broke it with each step. When he finally stood before her, he didn't care about the whispers, the cameras, or the outrage on Victoria's face. "Aisha," he said, his voice steady but soft. "Ever since that day in the market, I haven't been able to forget you. You've taken over my thoughts, my heart. And whether by accident or fate, you've stolen something from me I never thought I would give away." Her breath caught. "Ryan!" He went down on one knee. Gasps echoed through the hall. The mighty CEO of Malek Enterprises, kneeling before a street vendor's daughter. Unthinkable. "I don't care about status. I don't care about what people say. I only care about you. Aisha, I love you. Will you give me the chance to prove it?" The world seemed to hold its breath. Victoria's face turned pale with fury, but she could do nothing. The crowd was already buzzing, phones recording, history being made before their eyes. Aisha's heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst. This was madness. How could she belong in his world? She was just a stall girl carrying burdens, living day by day. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no judgment, no pity, only truth. Tears filled her eyes. Slowly, trembling, she nodded. "Yes, Ryan, I love you too." The hall erupted. Some clapped, some gasped, some whispered in scandal. But none of it mattered. Ryan rose, pulling her into his arms, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was no accident this time, but a promise.